Hello and welcome to Promenade Culture Center. This is Culture Corner. We bring you the authentic stories of creative individuals. Today with us, we have a guest, Josh Guzman, educator and antiques dealer. We haven't had a male guest in a long time. We just realized we've had so many creatives, female creatives in various fields, and a very warm welcome to you, Josh, today to Culture Corner. So when I say educator and antiques dealer, I'm sure it sparks some interest with our audiences. How do these two combine, and what does that mean? Although I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of the carpet guy. Shall we start with how you found yourself in Kuwait? And
Yes,
I think that would be a good start for us today.
sounds great. First of all, I did want to say I perused the Instagram really quick and did notice that you haven't had a guy for a while, so
Yeah,
had to go pretty deep to see the
yeah.
guy. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So takes us back to I think 2013 is the first time we
Hmm.
ever heard of Kuwait. We were interested. My wife and I have always one of the things that brought us together before we even got married was an
Mm.
interest in living overseas. I
Hmm.
think both of us being from multiracial families,
Mm.
we kind of felt this sense of anything's possible. And I think that was a little bit different than a lot of the people that we were around. So as soon as we got married, we had a conversation and it was like, hey, let's do something fun. America's cool, but let's get out of here.
Mm.
So we ended up starting to look for jobs
Hmm.
teaching overseas because that's what we had heard about. Um, yeah, we Googled and found out UAE, Saudi Arabia. So we thought, okay, let's try the Gulf. We also looked into Korea, but ended up meeting a couple
Hmm.
randomly, haphazardly, that was living in Kuwait. And they mentioned that Kuwait was a good place to live. So the first thing that we said was, "What's Kuwait?"
Mm.
because we hadn't really heard of it before.
Mm.
So um, started learning about it, started applying for jobs. I came out and visited actually.
Hmm.
In the
Did you come in summer?
I didn't,
Good.
thankfully.
First impression is
Yeah,
yeah,
I
very
came. I think I
important.
came in February, so the
Mm.
weather was
Mm.
amazing, and um, I fell in love with it. I don't know what it was about it. I fell in love with it. Told my wife like, hey, let's try this out. So we started applying for jobs. We got jobs like a week later. And yeah, that was in February. We were here in August. So that was kind of like the backstory of what got us here. Do you mind if I say what's kept us here?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Please do.
so we actually lived here for 4 years. So from 2014 to 2018, we had a son, our oldest son, George. We had him here. And when we had him, we were kind of thinking, are we supposed to are we supposed to go back to the States and like be around family? Like, isn't this what we're supposed to do? So we kind of decided, hey, let's go back to the States. Kuwait's been great, but we probably should be around family. So I think in the forefront of our mind was our experience living in Kuwait. Very family oriented, very family friendly, good work life balance. And when we moved back to the States, it was like culture shock, which is surprising considering we had lived there for, at that point, I had been there 22 years of my life. I had been living in the States. I moved back and I was like, what is this? This is not what we want. So we ended up probably within 6 months of moving back to the US, realizing, hey, this is not where we want to be. And I remember this one time I was watching a Khaliji drama movie. It wasn't even from Kuwait, but I just was sitting there like tears streaming down my eyes. It sounds so dramatic, but like tears streaming down my eyes, like, I want to go home. Like, this isn't where I want to be. Like, and that's kind of was like the catalyst that helped us to decide, hey, Kuwait's where we want to be. Let's go back to Kuwait. Obviously, there's other options in the Gulf, but yeah, we just were like, hey, we really learned how to have a good life there. We carved out a good existence. Friday market is there. like Genuinely,
That was a deal
that
breaker.
was one
Yeah.
of my like motivators. I was like, hey, Friday market's there. I gotta go back.
I think the post expat crisis is real.
Yeah.
I've read research on it. I've seen how my parents acted. You know,
Yeah.
it's difficult going back even to what we call home or used to call home. Your first experiences here are teaching experiences. I am curious about that part too,
Yeah.
given the cultural center deals with a lot of things that are related to education, and we work with a lot of teachers. How was that for you? You said that work and life balance was good, and you felt it was good for you. Your experiences with students, was it different from your experiences in the States? Very curious.
Yeah, for sure. I think work-life balance took time. Let me say
Mm,
that. Our first year here, we would get home every day from school and literally lay down in bed and watch
mm.
Gilmore Girls because we just had like no energy left. Like
Yeah.
we just yeah, we were exhausted. But over time, as we got more comfortable with the society and the culture, I think once we got into the like acceptance phase of culture shock, like,
Mm.
hey, this is how it is. It is how it is. I think that's when things kind of like started flowing well. But yeah, I think the the nature of education in Kuwait as being kind of like a commodity
Mm.
was something we weren't used to. Coming from a primarily public school education system, not really being exposed to that sort of like expectation from students and parents that, hey, you're providing me with the service that I'm paying for. That was a big culture shock for us. But again, once we got to the point where it's like, okay, here it is what it is. I think that we came to accept and appreciate like, hey, yeah, you are paying a lot of money to be here, and I can show up for you in a way that is honoring to the fact that you're putting a lot of money in investing into your children's education, which is something here that the more you experience parents and even for ourselves, like now that we're parents and we have kids going to school, like we see like, hey, this is something that is incredibly valued here in Kuwait, and a lot of parents spend a lot of money on not just their education but on tutors and on a lot of experiences for their kids. And I think like I finally came to accept like, hey, yeah, this is how it is.
The
And
differences can sometimes be quite large, but
yeah.
it's also the period of adaptation that sometimes takes a while. I remember for me, so they say that you need 2 to 3 years to really adjust into an expat life, for instance. For me, when that time has passed, COVID hit.
Yeah.
So that was so much more than that time actually to really kind of delve into the society, into community, to understand. To I was already working in culture, but still, um, to move from that to antiques dealer. I'm really, really, really interested in this path. Did it start early for you? Was it about education? What helped this and kind of crafted this way for you? And because you seem to be very passionate about it.
Yeah. So I think initially growing up, there was a sense of necessity around it. Not antiques necessarily, but buying secondhand. It was just due to the financial situation of my family, we had to. And I think that colliding with the fact that I have always had a huge love of history. I remember when I was I think I was in third or fourth grade. I can't remember what age. Somebody asked me, "What are you going to be for Halloween?" And I said something like 16th century pirate or like something like way beyond like what a normal kid would normally think about for history. But for me, like when I saw movies about the past, when I would enter into those experiences, and see like the textures and see the way that people moved and the way that people behaved, I just was so fascinated by that. And so I think those two things coming together of, hey, I out of necessity, I'm gonna shop at a secondhand store, but wait, there's actually really cool stuff here. There's really like amazing amazing things in these places. So initially, I think it was out of necessity, but then I started realizing, hey, what I'm getting here is much better quality than what I could get at a mass produced shop. So um, that was kind of like the beginning of that. Like I appreciated history and also I think culture. This was another thing that I, from a really young age, just had such a draw to. I remember on Saturday mornings when kids were watching, this is a little embarrassing, so I'm outing myself a little bit, but when kids were watching cartoons, I was watching Bollywood. I just
Mm,
thought like, what, like the color and the exuberance and all of these things was so appealing to me. Um, and I think culture and history and necessity kind of just morphed into this me.
yeah.
Yeah, the things that really make, those are the things that really make me feel alive. And so I think that antique dealing is really just an opportunity for me to enjoy life, enjoy like when I travel, I'm looking for antiques. When I'm online, I'm looking for antiques. It's just like it's become and thankfully there's also been financial benefits to it since I've started the business, but I really feel like the trajectory of
Mm.
my interests has led me to this.
It's interesting how much to say, probably how much time it takes, how much devotion, learning, reading. Um, and we will talk more about it. I'd like us to talk now about how you've actually started the business
Mm,
here. This is something we came across here at the center, got interested into what you're doing. We're following before we decided to call you to come and share your story with us as well. Before, if I'm not mistaken, you already used to have something related to carpets, right? Kazimah
yeah.
carpets. Can you share more about that? And
Yeah.
then please tell us about how you decided to start a business in Kuwait.
Yeah. So going back to Friday Market, I'm not gonna act like it's not one of my favorite places in the world. It's one of my favorite places in the world. So I always had an interest in carpets. Even before I moved to Kuwait, I bought a couple, but didn't really know too much about them. And then when I moved here, one of my first experiences in Kuwait that wasn't I don't know, something that really helped me to get excited about being here was visiting Mubarakia and the carpet shops there. So I remember sitting with one of the dealers there and having like an hour long conversation about carpets. And it was one of the most amazing conversations I've ever had because I don't know, it was like something came alive in me and sparked in me. And so then after that, I started going to Friday Market and started seeing like, hey, there's carpets here, like nice handmade carpets. Unfortunately, there's not as many now as there used to be back then. There used to be like full on dealers there. Now it's kind of like hit and miss. But um, I just started collecting and cleaning, and under all of our beds in our house, there were carpets. Under all the cabinets, there were carpets. And my wife basically said, and this was in 2017, my wife said, if you want to keep buying carpets, you need to start selling these carpets. So literally that was the push that I needed to
Mm.
start selling carpets. So basically the way that it worked was I would buy carpets here in Kuwait and then I would ship them to the US and I would start I started an Instagram there. At the time when I started the Instagram, it was like at the beginning of Instagram influencing. So I was able to grow a following. I was some of my first some of my first sales were to designers in Los Angeles because that's where I was based. So I remember I don't think I'm allowed to say who it was, but let's just say that one of my first sales, they bought a carpet that I bought for 10 KD from Mubarakia. Sorry, no, from Friday Market. 10 KD carpet from Friday Market to like one of the most famous rock stars in the entire world.
Mm. Okay.
And when that happened, I thought to myself,
Mm.
maybe this is a good idea. Because I think I had only been open for a month
Hmm.
when that happened. So
What a great push.
it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the business here in Kuwait, which also is based on Instagram, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So when we decided to move back to Kuwait, we came back to Kuwait in 2020, which was a very interesting time to move back to Kuwait. Um, and when we moved back, so when I had moved back to California, I had started transitioning from only carpets and textiles
Hmm.
to more vintage decor, antiques, things that I was finding in California as well. So my main thing was carpets, but then I was also doing dabbling on the side with antiques and vintage items. So then when I moved back to Kuwait, I thought to myself, hey, there's a gap in the market here. There's not really a lot of people that are selling like this, especially online. There are a few. Um, but I thought, okay, let me try this out. And that's when I decided like to restart my business here in
Mm.
Kuwait.
How do you keep yourself informed? How do you continue learning about arts, antiques?
Lots of research.
Hmm.
Obviously online research, but I'm a very visual learner. So I am constantly watching YouTube documentaries, like all the time. I spend most of my time on YouTube watching documentaries.
I'm wondering about other potential dealers
Mm,
in Kuwait.
mhm.
Who did you come across? Are there many people in the field? I have a few accounts I'm following. I've never actually visited any of these shops. You
Yeah.
see old, for instance, old lamps and books. And one of our guests here was Asil Yaqub,
Mhm.
visual artist, who says that some of her best resources are among art dealers and book dealers, actually, the antique books. So they are there. But in your field, are there many? Mm.
Um, Not at least not in what I've experienced and what I've seen. Obviously, my exposure is limited to Instagram
Mm.
and seeing people at Friday Market that I recognize from Instagram. But no, there's not too many.
Why is that?
Sorry.
Why is that?
I think that it's something that is a new phenomenon
Mhm.
to us. No, sorry. Let me rephrase that. It's a phenomenon that existed for a while,
Mhm.
and then I think it took a break. Because I have spoken with some people that used to deal more. Like I had a conversation with one woman who was basically thinking it's over.
Mm.
There was a heyday of people buying imports, buying handicrafts, and it just kind of has died out. Um, so I think like to a certain extent, there is there hasn't been a big market for it. I think that that's emerging now, but I think in the past, yeah, there hasn't been a big market. And I think also like there's this level of um competitiveness
Mhm.
in the market where I don't think some people want other people doing it.
It's a
And
very
yeah,
niche,
it's very
I would
niche.
say.
Yes.
Yeah. And your work, given that you're still teaching and the work in antiques dealing, how do you balance that?
Thank
Is it possible to?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's only possible when I'm able to uh, it's only possible because I work at a university. I worked at a different university in the past that had very full-time hours on campus. My current university is more flexible. If it wasn't for that, then it wouldn't even be possible. So yeah, I think Instagram, as we all know, Instagram is just a tiny glimpse at the reality of what's happening. And one thing that I have kind of felt guilty about in the past is not really showing a lot of the process, but sometimes the process is so like consuming for me, and I have to be so focused on the process. Like for example, the last 2 days, I was almost the entire time just like cleaning, fixing. Like
Mm.
I didn't post anything. I didn't. I didn't really interact much on Instagram because I'm cleaning and fixing. So that's something about my business that has been overwhelming is that I do a lot of the stuff myself.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. And you also have to know a lot of things. For
Yeah.
instance, I used to work at Sadu
Mm.
Museum,
Yes.
and to clean Sadu, it's not just like you put it in a, washing machine.
Yeah.
So how do you cope with this, with the fact that you also need to do a lot of things around it?
I think so. Some things, like for example, washing carpets, I wouldn't do because
Mm,
that's a thing here. However, when it comes to furniture restoration, art restoration, there's not really a lot of that happening here in the labor market. So, whereas carpets are easy for me to take care of, restoring a piece of furniture is something that I have to do by myself because there's not really anybody that I trust. I went to a carpenter shop in Mishrif and I took them this piece of antique furniture and asked if they could just remove it was gilded. So I asked them
mm,
if they could remove the gilding from it, and they were like, "No." So in that case, it falls on me to take care of it. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of trial and error.
hmm
Because that's another thing. Like I could look something up, but even when you look it up, there's going to be 30 different answers. So sometimes you just have to try. Like this week, I had some glass that I received from a friend, and it had a bunch of like applique on the glass, and it was the glue had discolored
mm.
on it. I didn't know that if I just soak that in water for a day, I can go in and just remove all of the applique on it. So yeah, again, trial and error. Also, having to be so careful because sometimes I drop stuff.
Um, when we talk about you and others in this field, what makes you different? What do you feel is different about you? What's that differencia specifica, the really, really, really different thing that kind of makes you stand out? Because I think you obviously do. Um, how do you achieve that?
Just to say what people have told me in the past, including people in Kuwait, I think the thing that differentiates me is I have an understanding of interior design that a lot of people don't really have. Like somebody can see a piece and say, hey, this is valuable. But then how do I actually put that in my house? And I think that's something that has made me different is I'm able to put it in a space where you can see it look good. And that's how my business in America worked as well. When I was selling carpets in America, I was buying sometimes I would buy carpets online and stage them in my house. These carpets were available to other people, but because showed people, hey, this is what it can look like in your house, they bought it off of me as opposed to some.
I did see a few things you posted on Instagram on how interiors can look different, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And that is something that we might be able to see something we'd like, but can we really apply it or put it into a space is a whole other thing. Um, I was wondering, is it easy to find interesting and valuable pieces in Kuwait, and how do you do it? And you don't only find, obviously, objects in Kuwait. So if you can tell us something about this, please.
Yeah, so I think that it's not easy. Let me just
Mm,
answer the first part. No,
yeah.
it's not easy. For me, the most common place that I can find stuff is at the Friday market.
hmm
But it's again not easy. So there's I don't know how familiar you are with the different sections of the Friday market. There's like the antique guys.
hmm
Those are the low-hanging fruit. So I
hmm
know if I go over there, I'm gonna find something.
Yeah.
But then where I like to spend most of my time, which I'm giving away trade secrets here, where I like to spend most of my time is in the furniture section and in
Mm.
the, forgive me, junk section. That's what I
Mm.
call it. Like the house clearance, sort of yard
It's
sale
the
sort of
good
section.
junk.
Yeah, the good junk. Some of it's good.
Yeah.
So I spend most of my time over there, and it has taken me a long time to train my eye
hmm
because there's so much
Mm.
stuff, so much stuff. So I walk really quickly. Um, and I am just literally going like this back and forth, looking for texture, looking for color, looking for material. And I can usually I usually get through it in about, like, my average Friday market experience is 30 minutes to an hour. If I've been finding stuff, then it's probably going to be an hour. But yeah, I take time to scan each booth, but it's huge. It's a massive place, and something that I hear oftentimes, not just about Friday market, but even about thrifting in the U.S.
Mm.
People get overwhelmed because there's so much. How am I supposed to know? So I've trained myself to only look for certain things, only look for texture, and I've made mistakes. I've
Mm.
bought things that I've kept for years,
Mm.
5 years maybe, um, because I messed that one up. I bought something that I liked that people don't like. So um,
How often do you have to go, for instance, to Friday market? Is
every
it like a
every
week,
week,
every
every week,
week?
every week. Sometimes I go 3 times a week. Yeah, so it's every week. If I'm really active, if my shop is doing well and I'm making sales, then I'm gonna go to Friday market and replenish. But sometimes I'll go, like, it's open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'll go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Just depending, because they'll bring stuff throughout the week, throughout the weekend. Like, every
Yeah,
morning,
yeah.
new stuff shows up. So
I am wondering, are there other, I'm not asking you to give us
yeah, no, it's
obviously
okay.
out the
It's okay.
places, but are there many places or there are really scarce where you can actually go and visit frequently
Yeah,
and look for
no,
stuff? Do
there are
people
not.
come to you with things?
Sometimes through
Hmm.
Instagram, yes. Not very often, but sometimes they do.
And you are not limited to Kuwait. Some of the things we can see on your website, on Instagram, come from other places too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So I also, anytime, as I said before, anytime I travel, I'm searching.
Mm.
So I,
So extra baggage.
not extra baggage, 3 kids. Yeah, no, I have, like, when we came back from Kuwait well, the last 2 years, I've been very intentional about shopping in the US, because I know that there's things I can find there that I'm not going to
Mm.
find here in Kuwait. Things from India I can find here in Kuwait. Some things from East Asia I can find here in Kuwait. Pottery or porcelain is very difficult to find here, so that's something that I'll source when I'm in the US, because there's a big import market there, and there has been for the last couple hundred years. Um, but when it comes to shoot, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering on different places you
Oh,
source your
yes.
objects from, and that you're not limited to Kuwait, and was wondering whether a lot of things, whether this is something you do throughout the year, where you
Mm,
actually keep looking
mm,
in other places, in other countries, because it seems like a quite a job.
yeah, I am actively searching all the time. But yeah, most of what I do is sourcing in the US, and then I've sourced in Turkey a couple of times. I've sourced in India before.
Hmm.
Um, I think part of the drawback to Kuwait originally was being closer to the places
Yeah.
with the items that I like. So for example, I'd love to spend more time in Egypt. I'd love to spend more time in India. If I could make it to China, that would be great, because I feel like there is this emerging sort of, not fully emerging because it's been happening for a long time, but the hospitality, um, the hospitality in Kuwait is obviously a huge thing. So hosting friends and family, and I feel like a lot of my customers are coming from sort of that
Yeah.
sort of space, who are interested in buying stuff. I One of my friends, Zainab Bagley, she's like very into, like, mismatched porcelain and antiques, and like, I think China is definitely someplace, Japan, someplace I'd like to go. But of course, I have 3 kids. I have a full-time job. I have familial responsibilities in the US, so it's definitely a dream of mine to be able to do more of that. But at this point, mostly here in Kuwait, in Turkey, and
A journey towards a really good carpet or other type of object. Does it start with an idea of a product you would like to have, or it's more a question of demand?
so something that I would source.
Hmm.
So The funny thing is, I think I'm such a I'm such an interior design focused
Hmm.
person that most of the time I'm just looking for something that I know is going to look really good in a room. I am a very as you can probably tell from my Instagram, I'm very much a show stopping carpet piece
Hmm.
that's going to just like completely change your room, because I think carpets are so important. They're the starting point when it comes to interior design. Plus, they're usually one of the most expensive pieces you're going to have in your home, and something that you're going to keep in your home for a very long time. I think the carpet that we have in our living room we purchased at the Friday market back in 2015. When we purchased it, it was 80 years old. Now 10 years later, it's 90 years old. It looks so like vibrant and alive and happy.
Mm.
And that's something that I think is missing from a lot of interior design culture, is this idea of buying something that's meant to last and something that's going to be around forever and something that you can give to your kids. In pop culture, that's not really something that we're thinking about. We're not thinking about longevity and passing things on anymore as much as they used to do in the past. And that's something I think is important and something that we're missing.
Would be really interesting to have, given that you're a man in the field of education, to have courses at least
Mm,
for people to obtain skills,
mm.
to learn more. Who are your customers? Um, and obviously, I'm not asking for names, uh, but are we talking about older generation, younger people, people who travel, people who are in love with the old things, educated, um, or, someone completely different?
So I would say that the people who are most interested in what I'm doing, first of all, like my biggest demographic is women, obviously, because usually the home is a woman's domain. So a lot of women, which I think is cool because I'm a guy and I'm able to have like good conversations with women here in Kuwait, from all different backgrounds. But I would say a majority are um, educated professionals, a lot of younger people, maybe closer to my age in their 30s, kind of just starting to think through like, what does it look like for me to really design a home that I love? Obviously, I think the average age in Kuwait of getting married is like 28. So you're okay, you're recently married, you started having kids, now you're starting to think about like, hey, what do I want my space to look like? So people that are influenced by global travels, global education, um, yeah, I
I
I would say that's
I suppose that in your line of work, keeping good relationships, building relationships with customers is very important. How do you maintain these?
I I can't um yeah, I can't diminish the value of maintaining good relationships, and that's something that I try to do. I think to a certain extent I'm just an outgoing person in general, so it's easy for me to talk.
Mm.
So I think this is something that hopefully has been a positive aspect of my business, is that I like talking to my customers and engaging with them and keeping up with them and following them on Instagram and showing them like, hey, I'm appreciative for the fact that you're buying from me, but I also kind of want to be your friend because you're interested in what I'm interested in if you're buying from me. And I've made so many incredible connections through my Instagram, with my customers. Like I've gone to my customers' houses before. I've seen the items in place, and of course, when I walk in, I'm gonna just like I'm gonna go crazy
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm not only am I so appreciative, but I really believe and love the things that I've sourced. And I think that that's something that some dealers in Kuwait don't really understand, is that it's not about it's not about like having this pompous attitude like, do you know what I'm doing? Do you see these amazing products that I have? Like, wait, why would you want to have that attitude? Like I've heard of dealers who like yell at their customers when they ask for discounts and like all this crazy stuff when it's like, why would I want to like hurt that relationship that's so important? But I think it's because people want to put on this persona that I'm all knowing and you're lucky to have a peace of mind.
Mm.
No, please, like I love what I'm doing and I love making the connections with people. Um, so for me, I think it's just mostly through social media, just continuing to have conversations and showing people like, hey, you're important, your life is important. It's not just about me.
Um, I also wanted to ask you about if you can remember or do you have something that's like a favorite find of yours, the most interesting thing
Oh
you found in
goodness.
Kuwait,
Yeah.
or maybe peculiar, or
Yeah.
something that stands out.
It's interesting because the two things that just popped into my mind are two things that have been in my shop for like over a year. So I found these. I say I found lightly because another dealer helped me find them, but I found these paintings that are of Akbar the Great, and they're late 1800s portraits of Akbar and either his mistress or his wife. I'm not, but just incredible pieces of history. And I think to a certain extent, those things are for me the reason I'm here. Like a huge reason why I'm here. Obviously, they're not the only reason that I'm here, but being able to be in a space where I can haphazardly come across something that's 150 years old that is a piece of history. Because the thing about Kuwait is like Kuwait has always been kind of like a crossroads. There's always a merging of societies and cultures here. I read an amazing book about this, about how um, pre-oil Kuwait was a very diverse society, a very open-minded society because they were a port city. So they're constantly interacting with people from all over the world. I love that. And the thing is, there's still that sense of heritage in the pieces that you find. The book that I was reading basically was saying that that's not really where we are today.
Mm.
Um, but you see the remnants of that in the antiques that you find. I don't think it's just travel. It's house clearances of people who have moved here. It's expat house clearances. It's military house clearances. It's people who have been here and have gone, but the remnants of them is still here. And
Why are carpets number one with you?
um, as I said before, I think like I'm all about the shock value.
Mhm.
So I think carpets have that for me. They have that shock value. I love as I said before, like I always loved the colors of India. Like I loved the vibrancy of that. And a lot of carpets they have that, um especially some carpets from like desert areas. And this was kind of like a realization I had once where I was standing in the desert here in Kuwait and I'm looking out and there's like there's nothing. Like it's all like one color. There's nothing. And I was like, "Oh, that's why carpets are so colorful." That because like and I'm talking about like traditional like Bedouin carpets and the textiles for the walls like out of the sparse environment that they were in, they created life in these textiles that they ended up decorating their homes with. So you go from like a very neutral space into your home and it's like, whoa, here, I'm alive. And I think also when you think about it, like carpets are the queen of
Mm.
antiques because what else takes 6 months, three people 6 months to make? It's like an incredible object that is yeah, it's so mind-boggling to even consider that that's something that people are still doing to this day, post 100 and however many years past industry.
We seem to witness a new appreciation for handcrafted items, for handmade items, and a lot of them are among the things that you deal with. Um, Do you feel this is true, that people are again appreciating? You have mentioned that period when everyone was just oriented to whatever is,
Yeah.
mass product. But do you feel that we're paying more attention to these smaller batches of something that's created by an individual or takes a lot of time to create and subsequently costs more? Um, and how do you feel about safeguarding these skills? Um, well, these are two questions, or maybe even
Yeah.
three, but
Yeah.
I'd like to hear your opinion.
Yeah, so I think that social media has made a big difference, a big impact on that. Um, Obviously, in other parts of the world, handicrafts, handmade things have been, I would say, since the start of my business, have been a really big thing. When I was growing up, having a handmade carpet was completely out of the question because it was like that's going to be way too expensive. There's no way. But when things started becoming more accessible, I think that's when people started realizing the value. There's when you hold something that has been made by somebody, it just has a different, for lack of a better word, soul. It has a soul. And that's something that I talk about a lot. Things that are made by machines, they lack soul. They lack human touch. They lack imperfection. And I think people are moving away from thinking that things that are machine made are better, and they're moving more towards, hey, this is actually where we were, is
Mm.
better in some areas than where we are today. So it kind of reminds me, it's like almost like the arts and crafts movement was like at the time of industrialization. It was their way of saying, like, we don't want that. And here we are almost 200 years later, in the same space of saying they were right. What they were saying was true. We do need things that are made by human hands, things that are crafted by people. There's actually this incredible show, that I only watch when I'm in the US because I have only access to it there, but it's called For the Love of Kitchens. And it is a group of people that are all working on this farm together. Farm sounds kind of like sounds kind of dirty. It's not dirty. It's like
Yeah.
super nice. But they have ceramicists and they have
Hmm.
cabinet makers and they have all these people and they're working together to create these bespoke kitchens,
Mm.
handmade kitchens. And the product is just incredible. And on top of that, let's say that you have this handmade. It's also about materials, because handmade, usually the materials are better. So let's say you have this wooden kitchen, right? That kitchen can be used for 100 years, as opposed to a kitchen that you buy from a big box store. Good luck using it for 20. But it's not meant to last for 20 years because we're so in the mindset of just replacing and throwing away and creating trash, that we don't consider how important it is for us to buy things that are quality and handmade. So of course, safeguarding these crafts, safeguarding, um, even the people that are doing them. Like
Oh, yes.
one of my biggest uh, frustrations, something that makes me sad, is the lack of Sedu weavers in Kuwait.
I think
Um,
a couple of years ago, there were like 10 active
yeah,
master weavers.
yeah. I hope and pray that
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kazakhstan has decided to, on a state level, on a government level, to provide salaries and
mm,
pensions, and so people stay and teach.
yeah,
And some of them have taught their daughters. There are even two men who
mm,
are taught in Sadu by their mothers. But I think the number, just last year, we've lost two master weavers due to age.
yeah, yeah,
Even though,
due to
so
age, yes.
so UNESCO has protected recently, has enlisted Sadu, both the skill, weaver skill, and the actual product on the list. Um, but obviously, that's not enough to
Yeah, there
continue.
needs to be
Yeah,
incentives for getting people into it.
yeah, yeah.
And I think like to a certain extent, part of that is going to come from the customers. There needs to be a high value for the craft because I've sat many occasions watching not just Kuwaitis but Saudis and
Mm,
other people
yeah,
bargaining for Sedu.
mm,
It's just Sedu. That's something
yeah,
that I hear them say. It's
yeah.
just Sedu.
Like it's something old and dusty.
It's
Yeah,
something
I've
old and
heard that.
dusty and
Yeah,
not valuable, but no, it's so valuable. And
yeah.
it's a part of history, not only a part of history, but a part of culture and a part of identity.
This is absolutely embedded in identity.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it's amazing how many similarities it holds with Peruvian weaving,
Yeah.
with weaving in the Balkans,
Mm.
with Ottoman, and the colors and the symbols. And um, I was wondering, did you have any adventures searching for different things? Did you maybe uncover some new incredible stories or learn something very interesting? Or maybe there was even something very negative
Mm.
that you can share with us. It's such an interesting journey you take.
Let me think about it for a second.
Mm. Or maybe met some really interesting people.
I've definitely met a lot of interesting people.
Yeah, it feels like this job is a job of uncovering
Yeah.
constantly
Yeah.
something new or something hidden, layers of it, and so on. Or maybe what are the best lessons learned from a process that keeps surprising you, I
Mm.
guess.
I think in general, the whole experience for me of learning about especially carpets and learning about the not just the beauty of them but also like the longevity, but then also the fact that they're made out of organic materials means that they don't leave a carbon footprint. Like they, once they're gone, they're gone. They decompose. If you bury a carpet, it's going to turn into earth. I think that's something that we don't take enough time to talk about, like the global impact of what we're doing. And obviously this is something that you talk about all the time. I just thinking about my students every semester where they have to write an argumentative essay, and they every single one of them wants to do global warming, pollution, or air pollution because it's a part of the curriculum here in Kuwait. So everyone's talking about it. Everyone knows about it. But are we really thinking deeper about it? So, for example, like when you buy, yeah, that carpet that you're buying is 20 kD, right? It's made out of plastic because that's what polyester is. It's made out of plastic. It took a machine 3 minutes to make. And what's going to happen with that carpet once it's gone? It's going to be here
Forever.
much longer than you're going to be here. So I think even about the footprint that we're leaving, how can we um, care about this space? How can we care about the people in the future? Um, and I think, yeah, it's more expensive, for example, to buy a carpet, right? But that carpet is going to last you for your whole life, depending on the carpet, and maybe your child's life, and maybe their child's life. That's something that is incredible to even think about. Um, and some of the carpets that I sell to people have been through 3 generations already. So yeah, I think that's something that really is something I've learned throughout all of this is the incredibly important impact that buying quality, handmade, natural materials, or recyclable, even recyclable materials. You're not going to recycle a machine-made carpet.
We've sat here with a lot of architects and we have discussed how to heal our relationship with buildings. Because we seem to be demolishing them and ruining them and not using
Makes me
them.
so
Yeah,
sad.
yes, I know. We've really had our share of crying here on this podcast about it with various people who really are documenting and working on visual storytelling on kind of reviving some of these buildings. I'm I'm curious about the same thing with objects, with things, with house items. How to improve this relationship with things, and what kind of potentially education we need, even which I guess starts within a family, to appreciate um, the old or the already existing and not buy new and plastic.
I think in the current environment of social media influencing, and it feels like there's also something that I've learned living in Kuwait is kind of the difference between my culture and Kuwaiti culture. My culture is very individualistic. You do what you want, whereas Kuwait's more of a collectivistic society. So a lot of people do similar things to each
Hmm.
other. So I think if people were to stand up and say, "Hey, this object, for example, this antique object or whatever it might be, this object is actually good." And I sometimes I get people message me on my Instagram and say, "Is this used?" Which I think is so funny. You're like emailing an antique dealer and asking, "Is this a used object?" Yeah, definitely used. But I think there needs to be like a cultural shift away from this used secondhand is bad. Used secondhand means you don't have money. So
Oh
I've
yeah.
I've had friends who have said to me in the past that if they tell them they've gone to the Friday market, they say, "Oh no, like, do you need money? Or are you okay? Do you need some support?" Because there's this negative stigma around having to buy something secondhand, which has been something that I've benefited from because I take things that don't look very good and I make them look brand new, and it kind of takes away that negative, like, which I think is another thing that kind of like separates me from some other dealers. Like, I take care of the dirty work, and a lot of people don't do that. And you can go into and some people have experienced this. You go into an antique store and it's kind of like, what is that smell? That is not. And I think partly because like I actually like to keep some of the stuff in my home to enjoy it while
Yeah.
it's waiting to be sold. So I make sure it's
And
clean.
your things look like you're giving them kind of a new shine.
Yeah,
This is
I
how I
do.
feel when I see it. Yeah.
Yes, as long as I don't feel like it's taking away from the value to do something like that,
Yeah, yeah.
I will try to fix it up and clean it up. So yeah, I think people need to not be so concerned about the negative stigma, because sometimes stigmas will keep us away from what's actually good. And I think in this case, it's clear, and we all know that we are completely out of control when it comes to consumerism, especially with home decor. So we need to get to the place where we say, "Hey, enough is enough." Maybe somebody's going to say, "That's weird" or "That's gross," which probably not, because it's becoming so normalized now. Some of the most popular, at least in Los Angeles, which I'm getting a lot of
Mm.
content from Los Angeles, even though I'm not living in Los Angeles, so I know that it's reaching here in Kuwait. Some of the most popular interior designers now, they don't touch machine made stuff. They're very much, they don't go to shops. Like I was just watching a show yesterday, or a small reel yesterday, about a designer in Los Angeles, and he went into one of the big name, I'm not going to say the name, home,
Yeah.
and was basically just saying like, "This is terrible.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
why would I buy any of this fake old stuff when I can just buy real old stuff and it's not going to break?" Like, I think about like some of the pieces in my home that I bought out of necessity from a big box store. I'm not going to say the name, but we all know it. Those are the only things in my house that are broken. And the reason that they're broken is because they're irreparable. You can't fix them.
And majority is ugly.
Ugly.
Yeah. I
I
mean, whatever, no matter what people say, they're just ugly.
Yeah, they're ugly.
Yeah.
And I just saw this video where that specific store was trying to, everybody says that we don't have any, that our stuff is always going to break down. So we asked customers to show us something, one of the oldest pieces, and it was from the 1960s, and it was a solid wood table. of course that's going to be
Yeah, that
okay
will not
still.
break. Yeah. Do you have any messages for carpet enthusiasts? For
But
someone who'd
yeah,
like to try?
I think my message for a carpet enthusiast is kind of like the Marie Kondo, right? Marie
Condo,
Kondo. Oh
yeah.
gosh, it's because Kindo is my favorite chicken.
Ah, okay.
So
So if it
so
doesn't
this
spark joy,
yes, I think this is the most important thing.
mm,
Who cares? I'm like literally the worst dealer right now.
mm,
Who cares about how much it costs? Who cares about, like, there's obviously people that
mm,
care about the density of the knots, that care about the material that it's made
yes.
from. This is made from silk and it's da 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 da. Like, who cares about that if you're looking at the piece and it doesn't make you excited? And I think that's the thing about carpets. Carpets are so varied and so vast in their construction and their colors and the designs. Just go with what you like. I think that's so important. Like, sometimes when I see a carpet, my heart gets warm.
Mm.
Like, literally, my heart is warmed by that carpet because of the texture, because of the color, because of the pattern. That's what I would say go for. Just go for that. And that's what I do in my business. I buy the things that make my heart warm. Um, and yeah, that's what I offer.
Now that we are mentioning the business again, what are some of the plans that you might share with us? Is there new stuff coming? Do you have any specific activities or actions or anything that?
I would say obviously my hope long term, I would love to open a shop again.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to open the shop fully. That would be a dream come true. I recently saw a statistic that 80% of people in Kuwait prefer to shop in store. I totally understand that, especially when it comes to antiques, because you really have to trust a guy to buy something from him online. Like, for example, I was just thinking about this yesterday. Like, one thing about buying something from Instagram is you can't do the shake test. You know, a
Mm.
piece of furniture, you shake it a little bit to make sure it's not broken. You can't do the shake test online. So, being able to have a shop, that's definitely a goal of mine. But other than that, I'm just going to keep trucking along, um, hitting up Friday market a couple times a week,
Yeah.
and yeah, bringing small pieces from overseas. I enjoy doing that. That's what I love during the summer, is being able to go and find things to bring back to Kuwait.
Thank you so much for the time you've given us
Of course,
today. And we are looking forward to the new stuff online in your shop. And hopefully, we'll get a chance to speak to you soon. Thank you, Josh. Thanks.